Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. Let's go ahead and take a look at yesterday. Just want to quickly just go right through it because yesterday was just in my opinion, a very balanced, choppy market. And because of that, we warned everybody not to really place any trades. I didn't do any trading for the first hour there, and then the rest of the day was just lackluster. If you could just disregard all these lines you see, I'm working on a new strategy or a new alert system. So, and I just wanted to see how it played out here on a very sideways balanced day. So if you can ignore that and just take a look at what happened here, essentially, again, nothing that I traded, but we came up right into the close of yesterday after the open. We came down to the previous daily low, bounced right off of it, came right up into our expected resistance zone, pulled back and held two bounces right off of the 41.42 level. Again, I didn't trade any of this, but just interesting to note how all this played out. So bounced off 41.42, tried to break out through our expected resistance and held above it for one bounce. And then we started coming back down. We actually used the close of the day before again, and then came down back to 41.42 here. And then it came right into the 200 and failed. And we came right into our next expected support level. And you can see they peeked through it by 2 or 3 ticks there and then bounced back up. Held 41.42 multiple times here, tried to hold the OPL, and again, the bulls just lost strength, didn't have enough to break out, get up through VWAP. Held 42 to the tick on this one, came up to OPL, so then we bounced between OPL, previous daily low, OPL and the 200, and then they tried to duck down below the low of the day, and as you can see, probably faked out a bunch of bears as we broke below the low of the day, and then they made a double bottom and came right back up, right? So it was a very messy thing to be trying to get any type of trending moves. And then held the OPL, held the 200, tried to get through, no strength, and then finally came back to 41.42 for a little double top there, micro double top, only to come back to our expected support zone. And you can see it was just absolute garbage throughout the day. Now, did the levels work in many instances to the tick? Yes. We still held into, oops, wrong line there. Still held up into 41.42 again. How many tests did we go into 42, not break it by 2 points and fail? I mean, you could have shorted it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times and gotten some pretty incredible little scalps off that area. And in many instances, right down to the lower support zone. And then at the end of the day, we failed from 41.42 again, held the low, the expected support zone, held the 200, and as you can see, just super chop. Now, coming into the overnight session here, we attempted to break lower, or the market attempted to come down lower. We did get a little peak, and now we're right back up into all the chop from yesterday, or at least from the second half of the morning there. Going into the close, we're stuck within a very, very balanced part of the chart here. So what do you think I'm going to tell you this morning? This whole area here between basically our OPL this morning at 41.23, which is also our eye level here, between 41.23 and 42 is probably to keep, stay out of the market. Don't want to be playing inside of there. And given this week, and given we have the Fed balance sheet and Powell speaking on Friday, the market could continue to be pretty wonky here and sideways until some other things come out. Now, this morning we do have news coming out at 7 a.m. It's nothing that I would expect to see a huge jump in the market from, but we do have pending home sales at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, 30 minutes after the New York Open. So be aware of that in case there is a little bit of a jump in the dome. But yeah, this pocket here, probably don't want to be trading within that. And then even if we get up through 42, what we'd like to see is a nice impulsive move to get out of here. So from the high of yesterday and the low of yesterday, we'd like to get out of that pocket because it is quite choppy in there. lots of good little support and resistance levels. So let's go ahead and jump up. We'll take a look at the daily, see what kinds of relevant signals we have, and we'll talk about some of these levels in here. So let me bring up the daily. And so we've been talking about this for a few days. As the market corrects lower, we are getting what looks to be a bullish continuation pattern for the bounce back up. But the question has been, and has been for a few days now, how far is this going to pull back before we actually get the turn? Because in this instance, we have a lot of room here. So for what it's worth, off of yesterday's low and off of our overnight low, we still see on the daily that potential signal starting to form. On the 4-hour, we also see some decent bullish signals from the overnight lows and from yesterday's lows. And on the 60-minute as well, all the same signals. So it's a very similar scenario to some of the other mornings here, because we do have a lot of signals lining up for the bulls here from yesterday's low, from our overnight lows. The idea here is if those lows will hold, we would expect this to attempt to try to break out to the upside. The problem is that the bears are really strong here, and every time the bulls try to bounce things up, we get this little shallow push of whatever it is, 10, 20, 30 points, and then it just fails back down lower. And we were seeing this on the opposite way when we were coming up. We'd get like a pullback, and then it would pop back up to a higher high. So this is what's going on down here. If we can't get up through 41.42, which interestingly enough, it was an absolute motherfucker yesterday, holding to the upside or to the downside on like 5, 6, 7 tests. And now here we are in the overnight session, and it just held 41.42 to the tick again for this pullback. So even though everything's lining up for the bulls to bounce this sucker higher, we keep getting really strong bullish slaps. And so the question again is going to be, can they get through 42? Can they get up through yesterday's high and start getting through all of these levels of contention that we have up above us here? And that's really what I'm looking for this morning. If we open up, the market internals start looking strong, we start breaking out of some of the, at least through 42 as a starter, then maybe we can expect this attempt to break out. But I'm skeptical of any type of major move, even though we have kind of the golden alignment here of our daily, our 4-hour, and our hourly, because of the context in the market right now. So let's talk about these scenarios. If we do break out up through 41.42, remember I said within yesterday's price action, it's probably not a great area to be trying to scalp and play around because it could be messy. But once we get up through the high of yesterday, assuming it's not just a peak above and then fail, once we get up through that high, I'd be targeting long up into that swing low there at 75. We've got our major and minor eye levels everyone should be aware of. The only new thing I've added to the upside is the actual retracement back down from that major high at 27.5. So from 27.5, 43.27.5, all the way down to the low we just made. Assuming that we don't make new lows here after the market opens this morning, we've got retracements at 41.93, 42.19, and 42.44.75. I know it's not lining up perfectly there, but that's the number. So that would be the major retracements back up that I would want to be aware of here. And then outside of that, all these levels we have up here I've been talking about for a few days now. So just be aware if they get through yesterday's high, we've got a lot of major minor eye levels up here. We have some pretty significant swing lows that would, to me, make sense as potential resistance. And these little pockets I just added in here, we've got the eye level up into that first 38% retracement here, 92 to about 93.5. We've got 42.03, the major eye level, up to this major swing low here at 42.06. Little 3-point pocket. And then we have the 50% retracement up into the minor eye level, which also was a very good support and resistance going back for the last month or two here. So those are the 3 pockets I see. And then outside of that, it's all, like I said, the same levels up above that I would expect to be pretty strong resistance. On the other side of things, I'm not going to talk about the levels within the overnight price action here. I mean, you've got your close, you've got the OPL, which is an eye level, and you've got yesterday's low. But like I said, I don't really want to be trading within this pocket because it's pretty messy. So once we break down, if we break down below the low of the overnight session here, I don't think there's any new levels as far as anything new in comparison to the last, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days of pre-markets. So if we get down below that low, that overnight low, which happens to be 41.1075, then we'd be remember, we can't also forget that even though the low of the overnight session and the minor eye level 07.5 are so close, doesn't mean we're not going to peak down through the overnight low and use that 07.5 as a support. Even though they're only a few ticks or a few points away, we see this type of stuff happen all the time. So don't just disregard 07.5 because it's so close. You never know, that could be the first support we get, and then it's down into 94, 81. We've got the major 38% retracement at 64, and then this major swing high at 57 until we get down into that 40, 42 to 40, 44 shaded zone, which has been super relevant going all the way back. So that's what we've got here to the upside and to the downside. And like I said, the only thing I can tell you that I see on my signals is if everything holds the way it looks right now, especially on the daily chart here, this should turn into an attempt to turn back up. So that's what we're looking at here. Things are super heavy. I don't want to tell you it's 100% for the bounce because the bears could come in at any level and continue to hold it down, and that 42 level is the one that's holding it down right now. So enjoy, guys. Have a great morning, and we will be back tomorrow to do another pre-market. So have a great day, and we'll see you then.